Welcome back to another installment of the Traitor-Dev series. The ripoff of Among Us. Ignore the corpses lying on the floor there. We'll get back to those in a little bit. Swell. We got something there. This is on the local world. My local world, I suppose. It's just a copy of the server from months ago. So we've got some things that have changed. I don't recall if I mentioned this in the previous episode. I don't think I had, because I don't think it was implemented then. Updates to the form specs. So they're a little neater now. I suppose I should really grab myself a tool so we can look at the form for the actual wait, what happened there? Excuse me? What? Oh, did I? Okay. My bad. Something goofy. I think I can get any of these. There we go. Yeah, so the form is a little more clear. You know what? I think I did cover this because I talked about the builders. Map IDs, I don't believe were implemented. Well, they were implemented, but it was different. So map IDs now are not something you can set. So the map ID, if you had claimed a button and you have a thing set up, your map ID will remain the way it is. So map ID here, WHF_M1. And if we look at Frog Station over here, map ID is Frog Station. So that's really the only thing that changed there. Everything else stayed the same. We have all this blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. If I give myself a button, which I think is lobby : button _0. Yeah, okay. And if I place this, why can't I place this? Protected by admin. Oh, this is so annoying. I don't know why I don't just remove that. I can get past it by just doing this. You know, let me just go ahead and do that right now. Remove area 15. Boom. Okay. No more having that issue. So, a newly placed button, or I think any of the unclaimed. Ooh, I should really double check that. It should be any of the existing buttons too. You know, the same. This should really be centered, but whatever. You claim the button, and it gives you this little help screen. This has been implemented for a while. Close the dialog. You have an unconfirmed thing here, and you automatically get a map ID. No more do you need to set map IDs. And this was done because of stats. It's not fully implemented yet, so the reason that this change was implemented, you can't see yet, but it was done for a reason. So you still have everything else the same. You put your map name in, blah, 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 all that same stuff. But this map ID is reserved now and can never be used for anything else. So if I unclaim this button and then reclaim the button, you'll see the map ID is now single player 8. And that was done because, let me go ahead and submit this and submit this, because we have a stats button here. So when you click the stats button, and you can click this on any green level. And if I go over to this one, you can pull up stats. If there are no stats, you will get a helpful screen that says there's no data and a prompt to get some friends to help you play around, which would make some stats exist. I don't think this one has any. Okay, this one does. It's been played 0 times, which, surprise, surprise, it's on a local world that I don't play with anybody on. Traders won 0 games, 0 have been team wins. Again, surprise, surprise. And the level's been visited by the level has been visited by single players 1 time. That really should have the S inside of parentheses, but whatever. Who cares? Nobody matters. Nothing matters. It's not important. Oh, did I just break this? Oh no, never mind. Never mind this one here. Okay. So we can pull up stats on this. It's been played 9 times on average, 3.54 players during a session. On the server, I had some bad math, so the averages aren't really 100% perfect. And the average data, I don't think was implemented and captured starting the same time the other data was being collected and captured. So the average is kind of inaccurate, but obviously the more times the level is played, the averages will average out and they'll become more or less correct. So yeah, you can compare your level to other people's levels. So, if this was mine, I could look at the stats and be like, oh, this level's been played 9 times. Oh, that's not too shabby, not too shabby. And then I could look at this one. Oh, on the server, this map's been played like 26 times. And go, oof, that makes my level kind of shabby. Why are people playing that level and not my level? Maybe I should look at this level and see what they're doing and compare it to what my level's doing. Also, Traders won 6 games, 2 have been team wins. Maybe I should look at that and be like, and this is kind of all covered right here. Seems like maybe my level is slanted towards, or it favors the trader a little bit. Maybe I should tweak things around, lower the amount of XP needed, or increase the amount of XP that tasks give, or tweak something in the level so it's not as easy for the trader to just go around and slaughter everybody. Whatever. And then down in the bottom, eventually I'll have some different charts and tables for the stats as well. So now the reason that the map ID here is done this way is because there is a new command called stats, which doesn't work. Oh, that's cool. No, actually it does work. So this one here, the map name, this is gonna be really difficult to do. Oh no, wait, no, never mind. So I can do stats 2D Phoenix. I think I spelled that wrong. Yeah, I did. It's an OE, not an EO. OENIX. And that'll pull up the same stats that I could pull up by just clicking the stats button. But using the chat command, I can only view stats for my own levels. So, of course, I can view them for anybody because I have the server privilege, but for the normal players, you can only view stats of your own levels. So that's using the stats command with a map name. Now there are some instances where there can be 2 map IDs that have the same map name, and it doesn't really do anything smart about that. So if you have a level called hello and somebody else has a level called hello, and you use the chat command hello, if the other hello is first in the list and it picks that one up and it won't be your level, you won't be able to see the stats on it that way, which is kind of unfortunate. But the idea isn't really to be using the stats chat command to pull up individual levels. The stats command with no arguments doesn't work right now, but once it does work, it'll pull up something kind of similar to this, but instead of viewing stats for a specific map, it'll just be all of your stats for all of your maps. Some of the groundwork is laid for this, but it's not all in there yet. So it'll have, like, I don't know the exact layout, but there'll be a table and it'll have all of your different map IDs, and then, you'll have your different columns and rows, and it'll say, this one's been won X amount of times by the trader, by the players, it's been played this many times, average number of players, blah, blah. So it'll all just be in an easy chart, so you can see all of your levels just at a glance and be like, okay, these levels are doing really well, these levels not so much. And again, kind of do the same thing. Be like, why are these levels doing better than these? And hopefully improve your levels. There's also a new stat, which isn't on the server yet. It's also not here. I forget exactly what it's called. It's the greatest number of players that have ever been in a session. So, it says here there's an average of 3.54 players joining a session. Well, that only means so much, It's a useful statistic, but what's fun is how many players have you ever had at once? So, like, have you had 8 players on your level at some time? 9? It's kind of like a competition kind of thing. So you can be like, oh, I built a level and it had 12 players at one time on it. Or, what's the expression? You can gloat. You can gloat over all the other level builders. My level's clearly superior to yours because I had more players on it at once than any of you did. I am far superior. Bow down to me, you peons. I mean, you could do that if you. That's what that's for. This doesn't work yet unless you have the server privilege. So yeah, that's fun. Oh, I probably should mention. Oh, I am just a naked corpse. Well, not a corpse. I'm a naked body without eyeballs. This is fun. So, yeah, this is a thing now. When you join, you will see that there is a new skin. I don't have a way to reset to that skin, unfortunately. The eyeballs are a little creepy. I will fully admit that the eyeballs are a little creepy. They need some work. But this is the beginning of the implementation for the skin system. So, I've already changed mine once. The first time you set your skin color, it's a freebie. You get to do it for free. Every time thereafter, it costs you 500 XP. So, you know, maybe think about which color you want before you pick the color. And right now, like I said, this is only available for somebody with a server privilege, so it's only available to people doing single player development. You just punch any number you want and save. If your number's too high, it'll give you an error. Unfortunately, it still closes the form spec. I don't think I can make that not happen. But yeah, we have that. I'm gonna try to put a model in here so you can like preview the skin on a model before you select it. But yeah, we have that. And then because we have that, it only makes sense. Let me go back to third person or first person view. It only makes sense to have corpses in the different skin colors. So there are. Oh wait, corpses don't show in here. But there are 7 of them. Well, this is corpse number 4. This is corpse 7, so that's the darkest skin tone. This is kind of the mid skin tone. So if I do give me lobby corpse _1, and I'll just throw that right here. This is the lightest skin tone. And you can tell they're all wearing their little, whatever you'd call these, a tank top and little shorts there. You know, just because, you know, we can't just have naked corpses lying around on the server. Although, there's one right. Well, this one's not a corpse yet, so I guess it's acceptable. Yeah, so it just uses that underlying skin tone, and then it layers the clothes and the blood and the mouth and the eyes. Oh, and they also all have the exact same hair. Eventually, all of that will be customizable on the player level. The corpses will stay essentially this. I might do some small tweaks to the clothes that they're wearing or to the amount of blood. You know, that's a pretty good amount of blood there, but maybe should be more. But probably not. Anyway, so I pretty much had 2 options. I could either use an entity for the corpse, which would then allow me to include the player's clothing and everything else, texture it exactly as the player. But that sounds like a little bit more work, especially because then I have to try to keep track of the entities to remove the entities, and that's kind of a whole headache. Maybe it's not really, I just don't know how to do it, and I know how to do this, so that's what we're sticking with. So I just made 7 different corpses, and it'll place one that's the same skin tone as whoever died. And now if you haven't run that, which none of you can, it'll just place this one here, because that is your default skin tone, is this peach color, tan color, I don't know, because it totally looks exactly like me. That's what I based it off of. Actually, I found some goofy infographic with 7 different skin tones, and I just copied them, and then I, ran some HSV noise, the normal how I put noise into things. So there's that. There was something. Let me find something that has this. Oh, it took all my stuff. That's terrible. The debug screen was here before, so that's nothing new. Grant me all. The tools tab, this is new. This was suggested by What's-His-Face, and What's-His-Face did some coding for it, which was all good and well, but I did a different implementation, which is kind of easier. It just pulls every single tool that exists in the game and puts it in here, whereas his system used a list of tools, which, again, it worked just fine, but it's kind of easier if you don't have to do any work. You know, when a new tool is added, it just automatically shows up. These tools here, you do require an extra privilege to, on this one as well, you require an extra privilege to use them if you need it and you're building stuff. You know, contact admin on the server, and I can contemplate whether or not to give it to you. Anyway, let's go check out the configurator wrench change. I'm hoping there is something here that can be configured. Oh wait, no, this is, I could have just done whatever. This is, I just need a piece of furniture. This is for the stashing. Can I just search stash? No, I can't. Okay. I can stash things in the file cabinet. We'll throw a file cabinet on the corner here because that makes sense. Okay, so slight changes here. I can't really tell you what the old one looked like too well. This was also a submission, I guess we can call it, from what's-his-face. On his computer, I guess the screen wasn't big. Form specs are just kind of whack, okay, man? I don't know a better way to put it. So he was having some issues where stuff was clipping over other things. So I believe the box is now smaller. The trash can icon always shows, which I meant to get around to fixing at some point. I just never did. But now it always shows instead of only when hovering over. That's another goofy form spec thing. And yeah, so we have that. Thanks to what's-his-face for the change. What was the other thing? There was something else. There's the tools here. The debug tab existed before. I don't think I've added any more new nodes. I think the bathroom stuff, the sink and the urinal and the toilet already existed. So there's nothing new there. I think, you know, there might be some new posters. So we got some old vintage posters. I think it maybe was just these three before. Now there's like a Route 66. I don't even know what this is, and I don't know what this is. Let's see. Some circly looking thing, I don't know. And some square looking thing. Again, I don't know. But they're posters. You can put text on them, so I guess technically they're signs. So you can, you know, say whatever it is you want to say. I might as well break that. No new tasks. I think that's it. I did make an update to the bloody handprint. I found out what was wrong with that. This was, and I don't know why. It was an indexed RGB or indexed PNG, so I changed it to RGB, so it actually could do the everythings. And yeah, so I replaced it. It looks way better now. Looks way better. It, you know, actually looks like a bloody handprint instead of a handful of pixels that kind of didn't look like a bloody handprint. I suppose I'll mention this as well. The button here has been changed around, so it shouldn't crash anymore. You could actually crash the server really easily before. All you had to do was I forget what you had to do. Somehow you could punch this button when you shouldn't have been able to, and it would crash the server. Also, if you do kick and kick yourself, I suppose I do have to be in voting, which I can't do because I'm not actually here. When you kick yourself now, if you do during a voting, so you know you're on the level, somebody calls an emergency meeting, or someone discovers a corpse and they call a meeting, and for whatever reason you decide, you know, I'm really not feeling this, people are being mean to me, or whatever your reason is, it doesn't matter. And so you use the kick command, and then you put your own name in. It'll kick you back to the lobby, which it would do before, but you would be kind of just stuck frozen in place. You wouldn't be able to move. You would be frozen, and you would actually have to quit the server and rejoin in order to unfreeze yourself. Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. Thank you to Dirk for mentioning that bug to me. I would have never noticed it myself because you know, I do most of the development work locally, single player, and then I don't really test a whole lot of stuff multiplayer because it's kind of hard to do, you know, because it's just me doing it. So I'd have to fire up 3 instances of mine tests to, which I totally could do, but yeah, it's kind of a bit of extra work. So I usually just don't do it because I'm lazy like that, and I rely on you, the good folks that play the game, to report all these bugs, which is probably a terrible thing to do if I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, that's kind of how we find the problems. Yeah. Any other changes? I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. Wrong button. Oh, I'm invisible because I'm a ghost. That makes sense. Okay, let me go back to the lobby so I become visible yet again. Hey. Wrong button. I want this. Okay, you probably won't be able to tell. It is quite difficult to see here. I actually rebuilt the player model because I was... Oh, also, this is kind of high resolution. It's not really that high resolution. The player model is at a 64 pixel resolution, whereas I think all of the other textures are at a 32 pixel resolution. And that was just because it was difficult to get the detail in for the eyes. And honestly, for pretty much anything, like for the clothing and stuff, I was like, if I'm going to let people buy clothes, I kind of need to have some extra pixels. So I did that. But while I was doing that, I discovered that the player model that ships with Minetest Game is garbage. I mean, anybody that's ever worked with it, and by worked with it, I mean like edited in Blender, kind of already knew that. None of the faces are joined to each other, which never made any sense to me. But most importantly, it's not actually built pixel perfect. I don't know what it was built to, but it was so jacked up, I wasn't even going to bother trying to fix it. I was like, no, I'll just make a whole new mesh and just reuse the armature for it. So that's what I did. So, I keep hitting F6 and F7. So this mesh is, I mean, it's pretty much the same, but it's completely rebuilt. The arms, if it wasn't at this high resolution, would be 3 pixels wide instead of the 4 that they were. Height-wise, overall, is almost exactly the same. It was just built to some weird... It didn't match up to the grid in 16ths or in 10ths. I don't know what it matched to. The pixels definitely didn't match to it, so it wasn't consistent with the pixels surrounding it. It was just kind of whack, so I just rebuilt it. And yeah, now we have naked people walking around on the server. Well, we don't, because you start with clothes, and you're not allowed to change your skin tone, because as of right now, there's no clothing. So you would be a bunch of naked people walking around the server, and we probably don't want that. So it doesn't exist. Debug stuff, yeah, that's all stayed the same. I don't think there's been any other changes. Let me just actually take a quick peeky look-see at not a bug here to see my latest comments in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so the changes for the skin, data collection for stats with the chat command, bug fixes for the stats, which was crashing. Yeah, that was a shame. Internal naming changes, that doesn't really affect anybody. More options to the level buttons. Oh, that was that stuff. The form specs and the single player toggle. Immortality after death. I believe I mentioned that in the last week's, which I don't know how I could have, because last video here was actually 2 weeks ago, not last week's. And this says a week ago. It was... Oh, yeah, so Monday the 7th isn't exactly a week ago. But it does 1 week and then does 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. Okay, that's why that seemed a little off. That should be it. I think. So, oh, you know what? Let me mention this. For anybody who is developing, if you have an existing world and you are updating your code, there are a few things you need to pay attention to. I created a new file, Changelog. It is in the parent directory of the game. So in the same place where you'll find the game conf, the README, contribution guideline, mods menu, all that stuff. Do yourself a huge favor and look at that changelog. This is like high priority stuff that you should be aware of when you're updating the code, because it requires user intervention. The two things here that require this intervention, line 6 and line 7 in lobby functions.lua, so mod lobby and then the file functions.lua. You need to uncomment those lines the first time you run after updating. Chances are, if you're actually doing this, you've already seen it and have done it. And if you haven't already done this, you're probably not developing. And if you're not developing and that's the first time you run it, you don't need to uncomment it. So this is only uncommenting those lines if you're using it on an already existing world. If you're creating a new world, you don't need to worry about it. It'll all be handled for you. But basically, 2 new tables are being created. One for the stats and one for... what's the other one for? One for stats stuff. Oh, actually, they're both for stats stuff. Interesting. I create a new table. I don't know why that one was needed. Oh, well, anyway, it creates some new tables that you need. If you don't have those tables, the game will crash every time you try to view stats. Also, the stats won't be saved. So, if you're having that issue and you haven't looked at that file yet, do yourself a favor and look at it, uncomment those 2 lines, run it, and then re-comment those lines out. Because otherwise you're clearing the stats every time it runs because you're creating a new empty table. You don't want that. Well, you probably don't want that. I don't know the reason why you would want that. But yeah, that should be it this time around. I know it went kind of long because I rambled a lot because I couldn't remember what was new. But I'll shut up now. So thanks for watching. Tune in again. A couple weeks. We should have some more updates coming through. And yeah, jump on the server, play some games, try to crash some stuff. Don't really, but if you do, let me know so I can fix it. And yeah, I'll see you next time.